What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we are going to be recapping the knockout rounds for the Summer Showdown. All the teams are set for the Summer Showdown finals coming up this weekend, and we're going to talk about the matches and dive into, what happened and all that kind of stuff. But first, before we do that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. Thank you to all of the guys that have been out here supporting me. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. If you're new, just stopping by. I do Overwatch League content 2 to 3 times a week. Please hit a like, hit a subscribe, and hit the alert bell so you know when my content's coming out. All right, so let's dive into it. We didn't have much news going on, so we're going to talk about the matches. All right, so quick rundown of the scoreboard. I mean, obviously, we know the 4 teams now. We have Shanghai, Chengdu, Dallas, and Atlanta. It's just kind of the last 2 tournaments. It's been, 3 of the same, and then just interchange New York and Chengdu. It was kind of a weird bunch of matches that were going on. The 2 fastest 5-map matches that we've had in the Overwatch League since its inception. And we had a 3-0. We had a couple of matches that were pretty decent. And here we are. So the score's really quick, in case you're living under a rock. All right, the finals from APAC for the knockout rounds, we had Shanghai defeating New York 3-0, and the Chengdu Hunters defeating the Seoul Dynasty 3-2. Over to NA, first round, we had Washington defeating the Paris Eternal 3-2, and the Gladiators beating the Uprising 3-0. And then the finals, we had the Dallas Fuel beating the Washington Justice 3-2, and the Atlanta Reign beating the LA Gladiators 3-2. So, all right, let's talk really quick. We'll hit APAC first, since it was earlier in the day. Shanghai just totally dismantled New York. It was an ugly, brutal match to watch. They just went out there and did what, above and beyond what they normally do, really. They went out there and they just took it to them. Yeah, I said that I liked New York. I knew this was kind of the end result. It was going to be I thought it was going to be a 3-1. I thought maybe New York could sneak a map in there, but overall, Shanghai is just better on every level. To the majority of teams, they're better on every level, really. New York didn't really. I mean, they kind of put up a fight here and there, but there's a lot of promise on this team. I think the Kalios edition added some spark to their team. Him and Yakpong work a lot better. Obviously, not in this match. They had their moments where they looked decent enough, but it just was it was brutal. Shanghai just took it to them 3-0. Then the next match, we had Chengdu beating Seoul, kind of like I predicted. We had Marv 1, the Marv machine for Seoul playing main tank, and that seems to be their thing now, which I'm glad they're moving to that, because as much as I like Gesture in the past, and I like who he is in that kind of thing, Marvel's just playing better with the team and all that. And aside from a few moments where Prophet had to dig deep and rescue some team fights, and same thing with Fitz, they looked decent enough on the whole, but Chengdu was better, and it was the Jinmu factor again. The guy that can't get knocked out of the sky, he plays far. I mean, they did a better job than Philly or other teams have with this in the last stage here, but I'm dumbfounded by it. Yeah, he's really good, and I'm not going to say that he's not. And they play around it so well that it's, as we saw, we'll talk about it later, but the Gladiators tried the same type of composition, but he's just miles above everybody on the hero. And I understand that, and I understand Yevatel's a maniac and can revive anybody at any time, anywhere. That's just what he does on Mercy, and he barely gets punished for it. The situation with it was a 3-2. It wasn't the best played match, I don't think. There were a lot of unforced errors and a lot of things going on in this match where Seoul could have, and you could say should have, won a couple of these maps in here, but Chengdu has this innate ability to win when they shouldn't. It's just, I don't understand it. There were situations where Seoul was absolutely dreadful on a couple of maps, and so was Chengdu. I mean, the Hunters full held them on Eichenwald like they weren't even there, and Seoul had to clutch out a 1-0 win on Junkertown, where they should have, it was just a mess. Some of the stuff in this match, it was just Chengdu. It came down to the final control map where it happened to be Nepal, and you know what happens there. They're going to play the Farah, and that's what they did. And I think it bested Seoul. There was nothing they could do. Seoul remains a puzzle and a mystery and all of the things to me. You could say they're like Houston, where they win regular season games, they get in a tournament, they get knocked out. However you want to slice that. I mean, the thing is with APAC, there's less teams, so therefore you have a better chance of getting a better record and all those things. And also you have one match to win, not two. But their supports have been playing better, and I've noticed too they've been moving up in the rankings. And I had said they were crap before the stage started, and there's just things that happen with this team, like they get caught with ultimates and eliminated. Like a couple of times, Animo had beat. I mean, it also says something in the opposition that they're tracking ults really well too, because some of these guys they know are in that position, and Chengdu did a good job of that in a lot of occasions where they were knocking guys out of ults. They were just doing the proper things that they needed to do to win this match. But overall, Chengdu, you know what? Maybe they deserve to be there. I did pick them. Wacky lineups and wacky strats aside, if you can't stop the wackiness, then you're going to lose, I guess, to Chengdu. The Crazy Pandas, they did what they do, and they beat Seoul. And, it is what it is. So that's APAC. I just wanted to talk about those for a little bit. We could go on and on about it. I don't want to really break down the New York and Shanghai match because it was just a bloodbath. It really was. This wasn't the best match by any means, but it did have some compelling moments and stuff like that. And there was some gameplay that gave me faith in Chengdu as a decent enough team, even though they're playing wacky strats, or they're just playing what's comfortable for them and what works for them. And if it does, it does. I mean, at this point, stop it. The teams that will stop it will be Shanghai, Dallas, maybe Atlanta. They showed that they can stop some of these comps because Atlanta or the Gladiators, like I said, tried a little bit of this and it didn't really work. And I don't blame the Gladiators for trying on that. No, but yeah, it's one of those things. They're addicts. They went back to the well of the Ameng, Farah Mercy, etc., and what have you thing that they do. And hey, if it works, it works. You can say what you want, but they're in the finals again, and Seoul is sitting at home again, and so is Philly, and so is Hangzhou, and New York, and here we are. So, all right, so let's move back to NA. All right, we had some odd things in NA. I think a lot of it is this falls into place for two of the matches in this. And, even for the other matches, maybe minus the Glads match in Boston, which we'll talk about really quick in a second. I feel like the map pick thing is actually working out in teams' favor for a change. For the most part, it seems like, there's the back and forth. For instance, the Washington Paris match, they absolutely obliterated each other when they were trading off maps. It was at the time, it was the fastest 5 map in history because I think Zoe said it on the desk at the end. There were 7 full holds in the knockout rounds. 7 kind of full holds as I think Reinforce said, you have to, there's not getting any ticks on the point and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. There were a lot of zeros on the board. Let's just put it that way. And the Washington Paris match in particular proves the point that I was trying to get at here, where the map picks are what's working. So Paris, initially you don't pick, you have the control. They win Oasis 2-0. Washington picks Hanamura, wins 1-0. Paris picks Hollywood, wins 1-0. Washington picks Route 66, wins 1-0. And then in the final, there was the one that didn't work, but still, you can see where I'm going with this. A lot of it is we're getting full holds all over the place. And, it depends on, a lot of things. And with some of these teams, they're not as versatile as the top tier teams. Meaning a team like the top two teams. Let's just go with that. Dallas and Shanghai can play pretty much a bunch of different comps. They played well on all the maps for the most part. And these back and forth things, they happen. Of course they happen. And it happened a little bit in the Washington-Dallas match. But there was some back and forth and some fighting, and there wasn't just this. You knew as soon as some of these maps started, after the initial push, you're like, this is going nowhere. This team has this map. And it happened quite a few times, and it was weird. And I was a little disappointed in Paris's play. I'm going to say that. And one thing I am not disappointed in was Mag came to play in this whole series. He was out there, and he was taking control of matches. And he was doing it on Reinhardt, where everyone thought everyone thought he had problems on and stuff like that. And he just came out and took care of business. And so did, and also you get Decay on maps that he likes and comfort picks. He's going to go and destroy people. But I was a little disappointed in Paris. I'm going to go with on the side of nerves, the side of just inexperience in these games. Yeah, they have guys that had experience. Contenders doesn't count. Last year doesn't count really to me. But they had moments where they were looking good on maps that they picked. But on the maps that they didn't pick against Washington, they looked absolutely lost. They were just getting outplayed, out everythinged on those maps. And they did that to Washington too, to be fair. And a lot of it was ult cycling and things like that. Washington just, especially in the last map, they just had control of it from the get-go, and they just had the perfect rotations and the perfect things going on. And they continue to baffle me, Washington. Paris doesn't. Paris, this is a good step for Paris. This is like Boston last time and this time. Boston, we'll get to them in a second. With Washington, they baffle me. They play like and this entire match was the microcosm, whatever you want to call it. In a nutshell, it was their season. One map they look like they can beat anybody, and then the next map they look like they can't beat the Valiant, for crying out loud. They just can't get anything started. They're getting picked off early. They're over aggressive. They're doing the things that drive you nuts. And one of the things I have noticed of late is that Fury and Mag are starting to get a really good synergy going. And Fury is playing kind of in that form that he had back in 2018, a little bit last year, but and some 2008. He's back to the top level. He was kind of quiet and not really doing much. He was okay, but he was making big plays in these games, both of them that they were in. He had a bunch of boop kills with D.Va, and he was eating things, whether it be pulse bombs or bionades or whatever he needed to do. He was playing fantastic. And if he can continue that, they're going to be hard to beat and scary. Which, hey, I picked Paris in this. I thought Paris would better them for some of the reasons, like I didn't think that Fury was playing up to par. I thought he was playing well. I didn't think he was playing at Fury level. And also Mag, in these situations, like I said, he usually doesn't look good, and he's looked fantastic. Paris was what I was expecting Washington to be towards the end of this match. And that doesn't mean Paris is bad. I like what they're doing, and if they continue to do this, they're going to be hanging around. And right now, they're in those playoffs, the elimination rounds before we get to the actual playoffs, with the play-in games or whatever they're calling, knockout rounds, play-in games. Who the fuck knows? They're going to be part of that top 9. I can feel it by the way they're playing. And I think a team, the teams like Florida could be in trouble that are down low, that are below them. It's Florida. Well, the other two teams have no chance. I think Florida, if Paris continues to play this way, is done. They're stuck at 10, and that's where it's going to be. Washington also, I think, could secure themselves in there if they continue to play like this, and the way they played against Dallas, too. But let's move on to the next match really quick. We're going to talk about the Gladiators and the Boston Uprising, who I picked. I picked the two wrong teams in the first round again. Well, I had the Mayhem and the Melee, and that was it. I might have had Dallas in one last year because I just rode the Dallas train. But aside from that, so the Gladiators did to Boston what they should be doing to teams all year. They came out, they were precise, they were the ult cycles and all of that stuff. Their comps were good. They weren't doing wacky bullshit, and Boston was not playing. I knew something weird was going on with Boston because they came out and they had Color Hex and Gil Busey in, and both of those guys really haven't been playing much. And I think they threw the first map away. I really do. And I'm sorry, Boston fans. I know it's probably rough, but they might have tried something. They might have had something in their plans, but I would have kept the guys that got me there. IM37 right now is proving himself as a fantastic DPS player, and nobody can tell me otherwise because I knew he was that good when he was on Toronto. It's just goats. He wasn't good at Brig or Zarya. Sorry, he played Tracer at a high level. He played all kinds of other stuff too in these rounds on DPS. He's just not good at Zarya and Brig. That's it. You know, it is what it is. And they were doing some weird stuff, and the Gladiators were having none of it. Space played out of his mind. Muse has been leveling up as of late, and their support line was playing the frightening way that we thought they would, with Shu, Moth, and Skewed. So, you know, I went out on a limb and took Boston, and it was for a reason, because I thought that they had enough in the tank to beat the Gladiators with the way that DPS line was playing. I was just a little disappointed in the first map, and I think it boomed them from then on out. I think they got into a hole, and they started not panicking, but panicking, if you know what I mean. So that's that match. That was a 3-0, unexpected 3-0 for me. I thought Boston would have showed up a little better, like I said. But let's move on to the last two matches in NA, where we had two good ones. At least they brought some excitement. They were exciting and weird and crazy all at the same time. The hilarious thing is right now on the Overwatch League site, apparently the Gladiators are still playing Atlanta at 2-1. Because I like looking at the maps and pulling some things up and get the lineups and all that, right? So I just go on the site, put the schedule up, and I click on the match when I start talking about it. And then, okay, there we go. Now we're updated. Hey! But yeah, it had the match still going on. I don't know if it was my PC or what, or it just was glitched out. Let's talk about the first match that we had between Dallas and Washington. It was a fantastic match. And this goes into some of the things I was saying earlier. This next statement I'm going to make. Mag played fantastic, and he didn't get the best in the end of Fearless, but boy did he match him shot blow for blow. And you could tell this match was going to be just an absolute banger and a half in the first match, first map of this. The Li Jiang goes to Washington, and there were a couple of shatters that Mag had, and I don't even think his team knew they were going to be as good as they were, catching 4 or 5 people. They were just beating up Dallas pretty good, and yeah, they put up a really good fight in this. There were a couple of moments where you're going, oh, here goes Dallas taking over. You know, in the next two maps where Dallas won 2-1 in Volskaya, and they dominated them on King's Row. They were just one step ahead of him all the time. And when you get Doha and Sparkle, you know, everyone had this narrative of Sparkle being a bad Tracer. When he plays Tracer, he looks really good to me. He doesn't look, you know, is he top level? I think he's getting there. But he's not, you know, at the upper echelon, but he's high enough up there where it makes a difference. And then you get Doha doing some of the things that he was doing. Yeah, it was just a nutty match. The thing that I did like, though, was the resiliency of Washington. They played well enough in a couple of these, and they showcased what I was talking about on Route 66, where they held Dallas. They had a couple of really big plays with EMPs. Dallas was like knocking on the door to getting point B, and they didn't. And a lot of it was some of the guys that that I always talk about that I rail a little bit, and that's Closer and Bebe. They made some big plays. Closer, hit a rally towards the end of the, I believe it was the start of overtime, and kind of took over on Brig and started smacking people around after an EMP. You know, a lot of the things they did it really well on that map. And then I don't want to say they fell apart, but Dallas just turned the screws to them, and they smashed them on the last map on Nepal. And, you know, Sparkle is probably the best sim in the league, one of them right now with the teleporters, and he gets charged. I don't know how he gets charged so fast, and he is, like, ruthless with it. And he just goes in there and just mows people down. And it was just another instance where Dallas just did what they do with these players, and they came out and they weathered the storm from Washington, who gave them the best fight that they probably had. I mean, yeah, you could say the Mayhem, but the Mayhem was doing weird shit. Let's just be honest. With Orisa and other stuff, and they were, you know, trying double shield, and Dallas wasn't expecting it, and blah, blah, blah. And the Justice showed that they can hang with this team. They have the players that can. It's just that at certain moments, they have these either comp issues or someone screws up something in an ult cycle, and, you know, it just like some snowbally kind of mistakes that they make. But they didn't make too many mistakes in this. As far as the majority of the gameplay that they were doing, yeah, they got outplayed a lot, but that's just what Dallas does. They have an insane ability to clutch out fights, to win when they shouldn't, but Washington did that a couple of times too. So there was a really great match, and it's something I'm probably going to watch it again before I dive into previews next week and just watch some of the maps and see what Dallas did that made them do the things they needed to do to win. I really wish, side note, I really wish they would have the replay viewer up earlier. I continually say this. So I could watch them on like Sunday night after the matches are over, and I can look at some things that I wanted to look at. But especially, I wanted to check out Volskaya a little bit more. I felt like there were instances where Washington could have won, but here we are. So Dallas is in again. Next match is it's like the Paris match all over again, and there were some big plays in these matches. In this match, the Gladiators in the rain. So the Gladiators in the rain had another match. This one bested the time that the Justice and the Eternal had set for the fastest five map match ever. And I could feel it coming because they were just in each team, when they got their map pick, they were in total control. And it was a fun thing to watch. You know, you have the Gladiators picking dive maps, the Rain picking out slow, sluggy maps. You know, it was just a thing, and it was great. Starting off, you could tell it was going to be this kind of a match after the first two maps. I could feel it coming, like the whole scenario of whatever map pick they make, they're going to win. And they won them decisively. Like, the Gladiators just kind of toyed with the Rain on Anubis after the Rain absolutely kicked them right in the onions. Like, there's no other way to say this, I guess. They just slapped them around like they were in there. I thought, initially, I said, ooh, maybe Atlanta is going to 3-0 them. But then Los Angeles came back in the next round and did to them what Atlanta had done to the Gladiators. So it was just a back and forth match. A lot of things that I pulled out of this. Pelican is Rookie of the Year in my mind. He made a lot of big plays. And so in Gator and Hawk, if they continually get on these comps that they're comfortable on, and, you know, we have hero pools in the next stage in the Countdown Cup. If Monkey is somehow eliminated, they're going to be back again. Because they run Rhine comps and they run the Orisa comps better than almost all of the teams. You can maybe say that Dallas runs Rhine comps a little bit better than Atlanta, but Atlanta will give them a fight. Potentially, hopefully. Maybe. If they meet again, please do. But the Gladiators, I thought the Gladiators were going to win this towards the end. I really did. I had Atlanta in this, but the way they looked on Gibraltar, and then I saw Nepal coming up, I said, hey, you know what? This is going to be the map that the Gladiators solidify the fact that, you know what, we're not like the other teams like Houston or any of these other teams. We're going outside of this narrative that everybody has of us and all that. And then they lost Nepal. They won the first round pretty handily against Atlanta on Nepal. A lot of it was Muse was playing really well. He had a lot of big plays in there, and he kind of, not carried, but he made some big plays. And they were doing a lot of things that they didn't do in the first control instance in the beginning of the match, where they just got absolutely destroyed. I kind of felt like this was a map choice that worked in their favor a little bit, but then they came out in the Far Mercy, and they really weren't getting value. And one of the biggest plays in that whole sequence was, and it had nothing to do with the Far Mercy. I didn't think that was bad. It was worth a shot, in my opinion. Give it a go. And then they eventually Kevster switched to Echo, and it looked a lot better. But they had a very big missed opportunity in the middle of that map where they hit an EMP, a 4-man EMP, and then Pelican, who had Blizzard, threw it down instantly. And it made them back off, and they didn't get any follow-up on the EMP. In a comp like that, that's going to be your fight win ticket. It usually is, but that was a fantastic play by Pelican that thwarted the Gladiators in that, and I think it turned the tide. Obviously, it turned the tide of the match. It could have been a totally different story by the end. Then on the final Sanctum phase, the Gladiators took control of that really early, and they got up to about, I think they got to 99%, and then Edison makes a switch to Doomfist. See, now this is where like intelligent DPS player comes into play here. He makes a switch to Doomfist after they were kind of fumbling around a little bit, and it looked like the Gladiators had them, and he switches to Doomfist, and he makes some big plays. And in the final fight, him and Pelican just won them the match. He came out, he took out Jexay. He did something, I think he took out Masa, and he took out Shu on the Baptiste, and then they started brawling on the point, and Space gets demeched, and it's going to overtime. Space gets demeched, and Pelican's on the other side of the map and just chucks the Blizzard in, because he knows it can't get eaten. There's no possible way. And they just clutched the match out. And that was a fantastic play by the Reign. That wasn't a choke job by the Gladiators in any stretch of the imagination. At least on the final match, the final map. There was some bad play, but both teams went back and forth. So you can't really pin it on one thing. And I'm not pinning it on the Farah. It works in APAC, and the Reign just managed to weather that storm, and the biggest thing in that was play by Pelican during the EMP. He didn't get EMP'd, he chucked in the Blizzard, and it sent for at least long enough, it sent the Gladiator scrambling. And then he throws a Blizzard in at the end and seals the deal at the end of the match. So, and that coupled with Edison switching over to Doomfist and just going fucking nuts on it and destroying people. It was just a beautiful match for end of the match for Atlanta. And you can't say enough about the way this team's playing right now. And one of the main reasons is Masa is back to form, and Iris is also playing really well. As much as I am lauding their DPS line, I can't say enough about how their supports are keeping up Gator and Hawk. They're making big plays, doing what they, above and beyond what they need to do, really, and just keeping them in matches. In this match, it was no different. Iris was playing fantastic. Just unbelievable. And it was something this team needed last year, and they tried out Iris, and it slowly started getting better, and this year he's been playing fantastically. And it was one of the key reasons why they're back into another tournament, was Iris. And I can't say enough about Pelican and Edison in this match, too, especially in the final map, where they just took over. And I know, Gladiator fans, it's painful. You're just doing it's us again. Oh, here we go again. Sometimes, in these situations, you get outplayed, and you got outplayed in this one. And it wasn't outplayed on Farah, in my mind. I really didn't think so. It brings value. They're not going to switch to hit scan, and they didn't, but they managed to stop it. That's all there is to say about the Farah pick on that, even though I keep going back to it. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode. We wrapped up the knockouts for the Summer Showdown. Next up, we have the Summer Showdown, and we're going to talk about that in a day or two. Get you ready for those matches, and then, we're going to dive into the Summer Showdown and talk about some of the teams that are in, out, whatever. I think we're kind of getting set on the top 9. The Mayhem have to win, I would say, 3 out of 4 games and pray that some other teams lose some, which, I mean, obviously teams are going to lose, but it's looking like, in my mind, it looks like the top 9 set. Miracles have happened, but, here we are. And we'll talk about rankings and things like that after the Summer Showdown. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks once again for all of your support, all of the likes, subscribes, all the views, all that stuff. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. If you're new, thanks a lot for sticking around. Please hit a like, hit a subscribe, all the YouTube things. That would be fantastic. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you on the next one.